All right, will the secretary note that all members are present except for Commissioner Williams? With that, I will, unless there are any amendments, I will take action on the minutes from last month's meeting.
Chairman, I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
A motion from Commissioner Peters and a second from Commissioner Short. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Public comments. Is there any member of the public who would wish to speak on anything that is not on tonight's agenda? Now is your opportunity. If not, okay, thank you. Disclosure of ex parte communication? None. Then we are on to new business. Case 12-210-00002. Request for an amendment to Palm Valley Phase 5 Planned Area Development for the Pathways Assisted Living and Memory Care Neighborhood Development for parking. Brett, take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Laux, members of the commission, members of the public. If I could have Elmo turned on here, I'll show you an aerial photo exhibit of the subject property. So the subject property is generally located at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Pebble Creek Parkway. The existing zoning for this parcel is PAD with general commercial. And so a PAD amendment is being requested at this time to allow the proposed assisted living residential use on this commercial parcel and also to modify the parking standards. And this is in an effort to facilitate the construction of the Pathways Assisted Living and Memory Care residential neighborhood. I'm going to move to a different exhibit here for a minute. Okay, so the subject parcel is approximately 5 acres. As you can see here, it's located within a larger 16-acre commercial parcel. And some of you may recall the CVS received site plan approval for the parcel at the immediate corner of Indian School and Pebble Creek, as is noted with a yellow CVS notation there. Development has not started, and that site plan has since expired. That site plan was approved on October 22nd of 2009. CVS still owns the property, though. And so some of the existing land uses surrounding the subject property include to the north the Palm Valley Villas townhome development. To the south you have Indian School Road and Pebble Creek single-family residential. And to the east is the Palm Valley Phase 5 single-family residential development. And to the west you've got Pebble Creek Parkway and the Paseo luxury apartments. Okay, this is a landscaping exhibit which shows the building footprints zoomed in on the project. The Pathways neighborhood is proposed to contain an office and 9 single-story buildings with 10 rooms each. So it could accommodate a maximum of 90 residents. And this is a single-story, as I mentioned, single-story development. And I'll show you some building elevations in a minute. But I first wanted to talk about parking. As I mentioned, the applicant is requesting approval to deviate slightly from the parking regulations. Due to the unique type of use that's being proposed, the applicant is requesting a reduction from the parking requirement, which is 0.75 parking spaces per unit for assisted living. They're asking for 0.60 parking spaces per bed. And in this type of development, you will have 10 rooms within each one individual building. The applicant has provided a parking study data which has shown that decreased parking ratios are acceptable for this type of use, and the applicant will allow him to talk further about the unique nature of the use. According to the applicant, none of the residents will operate vehicles, and so the parking is for employees and visitors. The applicant has noted that during the busiest shift there would be a total of 29 employees on the site, which would leave approximately 26 parking spaces for family and visitors throughout the center. So the peak staffing level would occur during the day shift, which also coincides with the lowest frequency of visitors who would be visiting family at the site. And also the reduced parking standard does allow the applicant to increase the amount of landscaping and open space on the site. And you'll note the areas in green showing the landscaping throughout the neighborhood development. As you can see, the development plan shows a landscape setback of 20 feet containing offset rows of trees and landscaping adjacent to the single-family residential development to the east. And also, still staying on this area here, the buildings are set back approximately 60 feet from the east property line, and that includes an internal roadway there. To the north, the landscape buffer with shade trees is also proposed, being adjacent to the Palm Valley Villas development. A copy of this application was sent to Luke Air Force Base for review and comment, and no additional comments were submitted from Luke Air Force Base. Staff asked the applicant to contact the Palm Valley Phase 5 HOA and also the Pebble Creek HOA. And the applicant has done that. They've provided both property associations with copies of the development proposals. They've contacted them and provided contact information. However, no questions or comments were received from the local HOAs. We did have a citizen review meeting on this request. It was August 7th. And notices were sent to all of the property owners within 500 feet. There were 4 signs have been posted on the property notifying of both the neighborhood meeting and also the public hearing this evening. We had about 4 adjacent residential property owners attend the neighborhood meeting, and the residents in attendance were generally supportive of this use and of this PAD amendment proposal. I wanted to show building elevations. As I mentioned, there would be 9 of these buildings, single story. The maximum height is under 18 feet. And in closing, I wanted to talk briefly about the stipulations. Staff made a few errors in the staff report, and I wanted to just run through those quickly with you and answer any questions that you might have. First, Stipulation 2 needs to be rewritten. I apologize for the mistake here, but Stipulation 2, this is how it should have read. Multifamily / apartment and or other high-density residential developments shall not be permitted uses on this parcel. An assisted living / memory care residence use shall be the only residential use allowed on the site without a rezoning. So this is the way that the stipulation was supposed to be worded, and we kind of borrowed this template from a previous application that we had a few months ago. And also regarding stipulation number 5, staff would like to delete that stipulation from the staff report. It's regarding disclosure from Millennium High School, and because the site is located more than 1 mile away from the high school, staff does not think that the subject property is close enough to warrant this stipulation. So we would ask that you remove this stipulation before it moves forward to the City Council. So those are the 2 revisions to the stipulations. And in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed assisted living and memory care neighborhood use as proposed is an acceptable land use for the subject property. The proposed use and development plan are compatible with the surrounding properties, and staff recommends that the application be approved subject to the stipulations outlined in your staff report. And so that concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions you might have. We also have Mr. Jay Valenzuela and Mr. Ed Bull, who can also answer. They are the applicant, and they are also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank Thank you, Brett. Any questions for staff? I have one briefly. Brett, do we know in sort of the complementary use other parcels there? Do we have an idea of what may go in there? I'm only, and the reason that I ask is, obviously if this is going to be a sort of memory care, and we're going to have, commercial activity in those spots, I don't know that those are per se compatible, but.
Chairman Laux, members of the Planning Commission, there is not a specific use identified at this time. I think the applicant was trying to note, this is an exhibit that they prepared. The zoning here is C2 general commercial. We did ask the owner of the property, Sunbelt Holdings, we did ask them to provide information showing that they could successfully site plan and develop the remaining portions of the property. And so we did ask them to show that circulation and parking could be accommodated, and they have done that, but no specific users at this time.
All right, thank you. Yeah, because just as a comment, I am somewhat concerned about sort of higher level commercial uses that would go in either of those two spots. After this, goes in, it's not an issue with the application itself or the use, but just sort of future is all. So, any other questions or comments? Mr. Valenzuela or Mr. Bull, do you have anything else that you would like to add? Or any objections to the modified stipulations?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ed Bull. As far as whether I have anything to add, I don't want to add any more than you need me to add for someone to make a motion to approve, is my honest answer. As far as objections to the modified stipulations, no, that's perfectly fine. We agree with modifying stipulation 2 the way Brett discussed it, and we certainly agree with deleting stipulation 5. I would add simply that this is a good, needed, compatible land use. The surrounding property owner believes it's compatible with their sort of unknown but evolving uses with what will be the surrounding property. I can say that some residential neighbors that were at the neighborhood meeting liked this use well enough that one of them asked us afterwards if we could perhaps expand some as well. So it was very well received by our neighbors who were there. They liked the one story. They know that there's a need. They know it's very compatible. They know they can't imagine a quieter neighbor than this that generates less traffic. We can discuss as much or as little about any of that as you want. With respect to parking, certainly Brett dealt with that. None of our people none of our residents will have a car or be allowed to drive there at that point in their life. We could only wish we would have enough visitors at any given time to fill the visitor spaces. We hope that we will, but that's not always achievable at a facility like this. We're very confident that based upon the range of parking that the various studies, including ITE and otherwise, that are recapped in the footnote in our project booklet, it's really a range of about 0.3 to 0.6 is what's really needed at a facility like this. We're at 0.6. That's at the high end. Going any more than that, we're just going to have unused asphalt sitting out there, which I don't think is to anyone's benefit. It's a good facility. It's in an area where it's needed. We have every reason to believe that it's going to be very well received and certainly very compatible. So if you have questions, we'll do our best to answer them, but we're looking forward to approvals and breaking ground.
Right. Any members of the commission have questions for Mr. Bull? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commission comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Vice Chair.
I didn't have a question. I had more of a statement or a couple of comments. I'm glad you deleted stipulation number 5. I actually measured it out, was like 1.03 miles as the crow flies. And I was thinking about the last application, the assisted care facility adjacent to the high school. That stipulation made sense at the time, but thinking the Air Force Base made sense, the disclosure statement there requiring that, as well as the motorsports complex. So that was going to be my question, was that band must be, or statement, the band must be pretty good and loud if you can hear them a mile away. Yeah. The second statement, and it's just a statement that I've been wondering for years now, and that is the ratio for the parking. And I guess what I've noticed over where I live, there's the LA Fitness in Cotton Lane and Yuma. And then across the street, the Target Center, I acknowledge that it's half closed down over there. But it just seems to me that it's just a huge amount of parking requirement for these establishments. I know it's a city policy, but just seems like it's just adding to the valley's heat, the heat island, and just seems unnecessary to me. That it should be maybe looked at a little bit in the future. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Would you like a response or at least
Sure.
counter comment? Chairman Logs, Commissioner Slosser, especially with respect to Canyon Trails and the Cotton Flower Center, they both were developed with parking to provide that would be provided for at build out, and obviously it's not built out yet. So that was really kind of a choice of the developer to build that portion of the parking out. I'm not so sure that we over-require parking, particularly for retail establishments. In this particular case, it's a unique use, and I think that the adjustment of the parking standard makes sense to fit the use. And the PAD amendment's given us the ability to deal with that in this particular case. But I think otherwise the parking standard is still probably at least reasonable. I mean, I wouldn't want to argue 0.75 versus 0.74 or 0.76, but I think otherwise it's generally reasonable, as well as the parking requirements for the retail as it stands right now. So I just wanted to offer that opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. Any other questions or comments? All right, then I will close the public hearing and wait for commission action.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve case number 12-210-00002, request for amendment to the Palm Valley Phase 5 planned area development, and to allow the proposed pathways assisted living, and to actually modify the modifications for the parking standards.
And with the revised.
Well, that's what I'm saying, modify the
regulations,
modifications, yes.
Right,
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Miller and a second from the Vice Chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. You have recommended approval of case 12-210-00002. All right, that's all of our business. Joe, do you have anything?
I had a couple items I was just going to mention briefly. I'm not sure, I missed the last developer forum meeting. I was out of town, but Brett did a short presentation about some of the building permit activities, and I don't know if any of you had attended or had heard about that report. But the fact is that the number of single-family permits being issued in the city has been on the rise, so I think it's something that you should be aware of. To date, we've issued 589 single-family permits compared in the first 7 months compared to 592 in the whole of last year. So it's substantially ahead. We're averaging 84 permits a month now compared to about 49 in last year. So it's a good sign to see that there's activity. In relation to where we fit within the valley, we are consistently been in about third or fourth in the valley in terms of single-family permits issued. As of the end of July, we currently rank in fourth position behind Gilbert, Phoenix, and Pinal County. This is a listing of 20 selected jurisdictions that the Home Builders Association tracks. So that's why Pinal County's in there. I mean, not seem consistent, but we're doing pretty well. We were reasonably well positioned in the market with lots that were ready to develop and available. So I think as it's coming back, we're seeing us capture a greater market share than we have in the past. The historic market share capture has been about 4.5% per year, and we've been averaging recently more in the 7 to 8% range of that market. So I think it speaks well of the community that we've weathered the foreclosure crisis, hopefully enough that we're bouncing back a little bit quicker than some of our neighbors that are further out. And so I thought I'd share that information with you. And if you'd like any more detail on it, I'd be happy to provide it to you. The second item I wanted to mention, just the recruitment for the General Plan Committee. The deadline for applications was August 13th, but we've extended that to August 27th. As of today, we have 48 applications for 25 positions plus 5 alternates. That's a good return so far, but I think the larger the pool, the better for selecting participants. So again, I just remind you, if you have anyone that you think would be good for the committee that you'd like to encourage, we'd ask you to do so. September 4th, the council subcommittee will be reviewing the applications, and then they're planning to host a meet and greet on September 18th for about 40 of the applicants. There, give or take a few, depending on how the reviews go. And then at the meet and greet, they'll make their selections for membership, their recommendations for being appointed to the committee. And the appointment is anticipated to occur at the October 1st rescheduled regular city council meeting. So that's our timetable as it's progressing. And then lastly, even with the uptick of single-family permits, we haven't seen a substantial increase in the filings for zoning actions or the like. So at the current time, we have no items requiring commission action for September. If something comes up, we still may have a meeting. Otherwise, with your concurrence, we may consider canceling the meeting if we have no business.
Or even, I mean, unless somebody has a really burning desire.
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you have a minor
I'll second that emotion.
case, yes, I'm pretty sure that we're all in agreement that if it's not necessary, we don't want to take up staff time and city resources just to get together.
That's all I had for this evening.
Exactly. Do that independently. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, then we are adjourned.